Have you ever looked at older individuals and thought, how do they still manage to do that? Aging brings its own rhythm. While some slow down, others take a moment to pause. And then there are the rare few, the true gems, who seem to shine even brighter as the years go by. They continue to do things that most people their age have long given up on, and it's not always the expected ones. These actions aren't about running marathons or lifting heavy weights. They're quieter, more meaningful, and far more impressive than they might first appear. In today's video, we're going to explore 5 unexpected habits that, if you're still embracing them between the ages of 70 and 85, make you truly one of a kind. These aren't just everyday behaviors. They are signs of emotional resilience, sharpness, and wisdom, qualities that don't diminish with age, but rather grow deeper when you nurture them. As you watch, you might find yourself nodding in recognition, seeing something in your own life, or perhaps recognizing these qualities in a loved one. Either way, by the end, you'll have a deeper understanding of just how extraordinary certain people can be. So, if you still believe in personal growth, kindness, independence, and laughter, stick around. You might just realize that you've become the kind of person others admire more than you ever knew, still embracing new skills. Let's start with number 1, still learning new skills. There's something truly remarkable about someone in their 70s or 80s who continues to approach life with the mindset of a beginner. If you're still learning new things, whether it's figuring out how to use a smartphone, trying your hand at painting, mastering video calls with your grandkids, or even starting to learn a new language, you are displaying a rare and powerful form of mental flexibility that challenges every stereotype about aging. While many people slow down, not just physically but mentally, sticking to routines and repeating familiar tasks, those who keep learning are wired differently. They remain curious, mentally active, and most importantly, open to change. That willingness to embrace change is invaluable. The brain, much like a muscle, needs to be exercised. While physical activity keeps the body young, learning new skills is what keeps the mind sharp. Seniors who continue learning, especially after retirement, often experience better memory, sharper problem-solving abilities, and even a more positive outlook on life. They wake up each day with a sense of purpose because they've given themselves something new to discover. Take Frank, for instance, a 78-year-old former school janitor who decided to learn how to play the piano. Though he'd never touched a keyboard before, lifelong learning, Frank watched online videos, practiced every morning after breakfast, and gradually taught himself simple melodies. His goal wasn't to become a performer, it was the joy of learning something new. A few years later, he plays for his great-grandchildren when they visit. While his hands may move slower, his mind remains sharp. Stories like Frank's are not uncommon among lifelong learners. Whether it's picking up watercolor painting, taking a community class on local history, or exploring a new tablet, these activities all signify something much deeper, the belief that you can still grow. This belief in growth has a profound impact on the rest of your life. Psychologists have long known that people who engage in lifelong learning tend to have higher self-esteem and better emotional resilience. Why? Because learning something new reminds you that you're capable, that you're still evolving, and that, regardless of your age, you can still surprise yourself. In a world that often assumes older adults have nothing left to discover, embracing lifelong learning sets you apart. It keeps you relevant, not only in conversations with younger generations, but in how you connect with the world around you. You're not stuck in the past, you're engaged in the present. So if you're in your 70s or 80s and still picking up new skills, take a moment to appreciate just how rare that is. You're not just passing time, you're showcasing something powerful. You're saying, I still have more to experience. I still have more to give. And by doing so, you quietly inspire everyone around you. Offering emotional support. Number 2, offering emotional support to others. There's a quiet strength in being the person others turn to when life gets heavy. If you're between 70 and 85, and people still rely on you for emotional guidance, whether it's a neighbor seeking advice, a younger family member in need of comfort, or an old friend sharing their struggles, you're doing something truly rare. You're offering a calm, steady presence that the world desperately needs, yet only a few are able to give this. Emotional support isn't always loud or obvious. It can be shown in a soft nod, a knowing smile, or simply in the way you listen without rushing to offer solutions. It's in the simple words, I've been there, that make someone feel less alone. And when you've lived through decades of love, loss, change, and growth, that kind of wisdom becomes your superpower. What makes this so extraordinary is how rare it becomes as we age. Many people begin to withdraw into themselves as they grow older, often feeling disconnected from the world around them. But not you. If you're still showing up for others emotionally, still making room for their pain, their stories, their joy, you've held on to something incredibly precious, your empathy. Empathy, especially at your age, is more than just kindness. It's courage. It means you've weathered enough storms to understand what others are feeling, but you haven't let those storms make you cold. You've stayed open. You've stayed kind. That alone sets you apart. Take Betty, for example. At 82, she lost her husband, but decided to volunteer at a local grief support group. She didn't have a psychology degree, nor did she have all the answers, but what she offered was presence. When she spoke, people listened. When she stayed silent, people felt safe. Over time, her mere presence became one of the most healing aspects of that group. People like Betty don't just give advice, they provide peace. If you're someone who does this too, you're not just offering support. You're a rare light in a world that often moves too fast and feels too noisy. You give people a place to land when they feel unsteady. Psychologically speaking, older adults who continue providing emotional care to others also tend to feel more fulfilled themselves. It reinforces your sense of purpose and keeps your heart engaged with those around you. And perhaps most importantly, it shows that, no matter what you've gone through, you've chosen to remain loving and connected. That's not common. In fact, it's incredibly special. If, at your age, you're still showing up for others, still lifting them up when they're down, you're doing something that many half your age still struggle to master. And in doing so, you're proving that strength doesn't always come from muscles or memory. It comes from compassion, the gift of curiosity. It's like I'm still part of something bigger. That's the gift of curiosity. It reminds you that the world remains vast, even when your body may not be as swift as it once was. And curiosity doesn't need to be grand or extravagant. It could be as simple as asking your grandson how his video game works, or as profound as diving into a new philosophy that challenges your beliefs. The key point is that you haven't closed the door on growth. You still see life as an open book, not a finished chapter. Psychologically, this mindset helps keep people emotionally balanced and hopeful. Curious individuals tend to be less judgmental and more adaptable. They navigate changes, whether they're societal, technological, or personal, with grace. They aren't afraid to say, "I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out." In a world where cynicism often comes with age, your curiosity is a quiet rebellion. It says you haven't given in to apathy. You haven't stopped caring. You're still engaged, still fascinated, still alive in the truest sense. If this sounds like you, then know that your mind is a rare gift, not because you have all the answers, but because you're still eager to ask the questions. And that quality, especially in your later years, serves as a shining example to everyone around you. Number 4, speaking kindly about yourself. If you're between 70 and 85 and have learned to speak kindly about yourself, that is extraordinary. Speaking kindly to yourself is rare. It is strength. Because let's be honest, most people spend a lifetime criticizing themselves in their own minds. By the time they reach their golden years, that internal voice has often worn them down. But if you've trained yourself or naturally grown into someone who says things like, "I'm proud of how far I've come," or "I did my best," then you are not just lucky, you are wise. Aging can often bring a surprising amount of self-doubt. We reflect more, we remember our mistakes, and we question if we were good parents, good spouses, or good people. Sadly, many older adults allow those questions to become a form of self-punishment. But if you have made peace with your past and can speak to yourself like a dear friend, that is no small feat. It takes strength to speak softly to your own heart. It takes maturity to look in the mirror and see not wrinkles or regrets, but experience. That kind of inner voice doesn't just happen. It's cultivated through years of overcoming challenges, learning to let go, and realizing that self-compassion is the key to personal growth. Your emotional home perfection was never the goal. Growth was. Psychologists often say that the voice we use with ourselves becomes our emotional home. If that home is filled with judgment, we shrink. If it's filled with compassion, we thrive. So, if you've built a gentle, forgiving, and encouraging voice within, you've created a sanctuary. This sanctuary protects your mind from bitterness, your spirit from resentment, and your relationships from unnecessary strain. Take Margaret, a retired nurse from Ohio in her early 80s, for example. She once shared something with me that has stayed with me ever since. I used to beat myself up for not doing enough. Now I say, "Margaret, you did the best you could with what you knew at the time." That one sentence changed how I sleep at night. That's not just healing. That's wisdom in action. What's powerful here is that people who speak kindly to themselves also tend to speak more kindly to others. This means you are likely a source of peace for your family, friends, and even strangers. Your words carry calm, your tone eases tension, and your presence reminds others that it's okay to be imperfect and still worthy of love. In a world that often tells us we're not enough, not young enough, not healthy enough, not productive enough, your self-compassion is a quiet rebellion. You're telling the world and yourself that being enough isn't something to earn, it's something to recognize. So if you find yourself saying, I've lived a good life, or I like who I am today. Take a moment to acknowledge that. That mindset didn't come easily. It's the result of 1,000 inner battles won, battles most people will never even see. And that makes you not just rare, but remarkable. Staying curious about life, number 5. Staying curious about life. If it's 70, 75, or even 85, you're still asking questions, still reading, still exploring new ideas. You're a rare and beautiful soul. Curiosity at that stage of life isn't just a trait. It's a quiet declaration that your spirit is still very much alive. And believe me, that makes you one in a million. Here's the truth. Most people, at some point, stop asking why, how, or what else. They settle into routines, assuming they've learned all there is to know. They stop being surprised by the world. But if you're someone who still picks up books, tries new foods, watches documentaries, or asks your grandkids about their interests, that's not just impressive, it's inspiring. Staying curious is one of the best ways to stay young at heart. It keeps your brain active, your perspective fresh, and your relationships richer. Curiosity means you haven't allowed life to push you into passivity. You're still reaching, still growing, still opening yourself to the unknown. And that takes courage, especially in a world that often tells older adults to sit down, be quiet, and let the world move on without them. There's a psychological benefit too. Studies show that older adults who stay intellectually curious often experience better memory, sharper reasoning, and lower levels of depression. Curiosity creates movement, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. It gives you something to look forward to and invites surprise, and surprise is a key ingredient of joy. Let me tell you about Robert, a 78-year-old gentleman from Arizona. Every morning he watches one educational video online about history, nature, or science. He says it gives him something new to think about every day. One day, it was about the mating habits of penguins. The next, it was about how coffee beans are processed in Ethiopia. Robert said, "I may never travel again, but my mind gets to go somewhere new each day." That's the power of staying curious. What's more, curiosity helps you connect across generations. It keeps you engaged with the world and those around you, showing that no matter your age, you're always learning and growing. Building bridges through curiosity. When you ask your grandchild how TikTok works, what books they're reading in school, or how 3D printing is revolutionizing medicine, you're building bridges. You're saying, "I'm still part of the conversation." And that message doesn't just resonate with others, it's also a reminder to yourself, I still matter. Don't underestimate the impact of this. People notice when someone your age is still growing. It gives them hope. It shows them that aging doesn't have to mean shrinking. The mind and soul can continue to expand, right up to the very end. So, if you still light up when you learn something new, if you still say that's interesting when someone shares a new fact, if you still sit in awe when watching the sunset or hearing a bird song you've never heard before, you are a true gem in this world. Your curiosity is a beacon. And in a world where age often dims the light, yours stands tall, steady, and bright. A reminder to everyone around you that the journey is far from over. Final thoughts: if you've made it this far and found yourself nodding, smiling, or even feeling a little emotional, it tells me something important. You still care about growing. You still want to know that your efforts, your choices, and your heart still matter in this world. And let me reassure you, they matter more than ever. Reaching 70, 80, or beyond isn't the end of your story. It's a powerful chapter filled with wisdom, depth, and beauty that younger generations can only begin to imagine. But it's easy to forget that when society tries to write you off, when your body no longer moves the way it used to, or when friends begin to disappear, leaving loneliness to quietly creep in. That's why it's so essential to recognize and honor the 5 things you're still doing. Staying kind when bitterness would be easier. Maintaining your independence in ways others don't notice. Standing up for your boundaries. Offering quiet generosity. And keeping that spark of curiosity alive. These aren't small traits, they are quiet miracles. Maybe you don't hear that enough. Maybe those around you are too busy to notice, or perhaps you're too humble to point it out yourself. But just because it's unspoken doesn't mean it's unseen. You are the kind of person others look at with quiet admiration, the kind of soul who proves that age doesn't dim our light, it refines it. So, never let anyone tell you that what you do doesn't count. It does. Not just for you, but for everyone watching. Your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, and even strangers at the grocery store. The way you live tells a story worth sharing. You are not ordinary. You are not just getting older. You are growing, glowing, and inspiring. You are doing something rare, holding on to your humanity, dignity, curiosity, and compassion in a world that often encourages people to let go of those qualities. That's why you are a 1 in a million gem, and I hope you never forget that. Thank you for joining us today. We would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today. and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your thoughts are incredibly valuable to us, so don't hesitate to share. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating valuable content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.